So for ad valorem, it is considered a local resource. A portion of it is considered a state resource, but what we do is we take our collections, actual collections from October 1st of 23 to June 30th of 24. And then we estimate the next 3 months of where we're at in the school year based on what we received last year. So you can see the first set of collections that we've actually received from October 23rd through June 30th of 24 is $10,978,471.67. The next 3 months we have anticipated based on actual collections from 23, and that is $702,716.15. The next category we're looking at is our homestead reimbursement, and those are based directly on what we received in the last year. That's $329,231.20. And that is actually considered a state source, so that's not going to be in our local number. Because we declared an escrow last year and we subtracted that from our request, we have to add it back this year. So we subtracted $96,053.45, and we have to add that back for this year. New programs was actually a little bit higher, but to keep our millage the same, we decided on $637,872.13, and our new estimated property calculated to $35,655.40. So this total operational request is $12,780,000, which keeps our millage exactly the same as it is for the 24 school year at 53.25 mills. So for state sources, we have 5 different categories. We have MSFF, which is taking the place of MAEP, and that's going to take me a little bit of time to get used to. So if I still consider saying MAEP, please understand that I'm talking about the MSFF. And that state source is $21,979,362. Educational enhancement is $237,341. Homestead exemption is what we just covered. These is based on actual collections at $329,231. Vocational education is $434,550, and other revenues is $1,121,123. And other revenues is comprised of educable child, master teacher, rail cars, heavy trucks. And as you can see, our state formula, MSFF, makes up 91% of all of our state resources. The education enhancement is 1%, homestead is 1%, vocational is 2%, and other sources is 5%. Our MAEP funding trend, this was the craziest thing I have ever seen. Very thankful that the state decided to listen to us finally, because on the survey that you guys fill out every year, you say, yes, we would like to have our state funding based on enrollment and not ADA, because enrollment is what we have to budget on for our teachers, our teacher units. So for the first time ever, our actual allocation is more than the full funding formula suggested it would be. And I had just been praying to receive the full formula for all these years, and it's surpassed that. Our enrollment trends have still declined, but as you can see, they're not declining at the rate that they were even 3 years ago. They were going down by 100 students, 155 students. Between last year and this year is 8 students. Between that and the year before, it was 12. So our federal revenue sources is comprised of 5 different categories. We have child nutrition at $4,469,889. Our Title I is $3,021,387. Title II is at $484,583. IDEA Part B in preschool is at $410,890. And other federal revenues is $13,244,153. And the other federal revenue is comprised of TVA, there's a portion of PBIS, and its other title funds. And this also includes ESSER, which is going away. This is the last year for it. You can see that there's been a huge decrease from last year to this year, and that's because ESSER funds have been spent. And the majority of the decreases that you see up there is because carryover has been spent. We've had really strange few years with the pandemic that we've had a lot more time to spend our funds. So a lot of this stuff is carryover just being spent the way it should have been. As you can see, our federal sources, other federal revenue is still leading, and that's really due to ESSER at 59%. Child nutrition is 20%. Title I is 13%. Title II is 2%. And IDEA is 6% of our federal revenue. Projected expenditures. To support the instructional focus and mission of the Columbus Municipal School District, we've projected expenditures are $72,458,152.28 across 67 funds for the 24-25 school year. And you know, just because we have 67 funds doesn't mean that that's really the amount of projects we have, because remember in our work sessions, I told you guys that our title funds, even though it's just one fund number, they can have multiple project years inside the one fund number. So we have 6 categories of expenditures. Instruction is $22,547,499. Support services is $23,519,503. Non-instructional services is $4,533,916. 16th section is $100,283. Facilities acquisition and construction is $18,201,917. And debt service is $3,555,035. As you can see, our support services and instruction make up the biggest portions of where we're spending money. Facilities construction comes in at 25%. Non-instructional comes in at 6%. 16th section is less than 1%, and our debt service is 5%. So for our instructional expenditures, we have 8 different categories. We have 5 elementary schools, which is function code 1120. We have 1 middle school, function code 1130, 1 high school, which is function code 1140, 1 vocational school, which is function code 1142. Gifted locations go across all of our elementary schools and our middle school, and that'll be function code 1210. Special education locations are across our district, and that is function code 1220. 1 alternative school location supporting 4 staff members is function code 1230, and all other special functions that include private placement, the detention center, private school participation, English learners, extended day, intersession, extended year, student clubs, and student activities. For our support services, we have 9 different categories. We have student support services, which make up counselors, nurses, psychologists, psychometrists. We have the improvement of instruction, which is our curriculum and professional development. School library services at all locations. General administration, which is our trustees and our superintendents and their assistants. School administration, which is our principals and directors, assistant principals and their clerical support. Business operations, which is my department. Operations and maintenance includes maintenance and grounds, custodial, security, and building operations. Transportation is our entire transportation department, and central support includes our network and IT department, public relations, and human resources. Non-instructional expenditures, we only have 2 categories here. That's our child nutrition department and our district-wide parental involvement. 16th section expenditures. Remember I said that we have this in reserve. No, we don't plan on spending 100% of it, but it's there if we need it. And this is basically just used to pay for the repair and upkeep of our 16th section properties. Facilities construction. This is for the rebuilding of the Hunt facility, our ESSER 3 funds that remain, our educational facility revolving loan funds for our McKellar Vocational Center. And of course, it's not on there, but we're all thinking about our general obligation bond. For debt service expenditures. Now, please understand that these are budgeted expenditures and not necessarily what we're going to ask for in terms of revenue. So the district lease payments is our capital leases, and that's completely district funded. The quality school construction bond is our $3 million note. The general obligation bonds, of course, is our very new bond that we just passed. And the educational facility revolving loan fund is our zero interest loan that we are paying back, and that is to upgrade McKellar. So our capital lease payments, those payments actually haven't changed. That debt schedule is going to remain the same until it's paid off. This year's payment is $101,008.72 for our first master lease payment, and our second master lease is $103,427.40. Again, that's budgeted out of district maintenance funds. Our ad valorem debt request for QSCAP. The board made a really great decision last year when we decided to go ahead and invest those funds in another sinking compartment of where it was. So we really did rack up more interest than we thought we would. And our debt payment for this year is going to be $167,000, or I'm sorry, not the payment, but the request that we need in order to make our payment is $167,619.09. Right now, the interest and principal payment is $509,255.48. The dues and fees on that is going to be $1,500. We have our EEF pledged to this, so we go ahead and deduct the $188,104. And we have some funds in reserve and some funds that we know that we're still anticipating to collect. And that's where we come up with the difference is $167,619.09, and that's going to be our debt request for the QSCAP $3 million note. For our general obligation bond, our brand new bond, so the principal and interest payment is going to be $2,744,454.31. And the dues and fees we have estimated as $500. And we do have some funds in cash reserve. And we also have some anticipating funds that we know are still probably there to collect. So we deduct that amount, and the request for our general obligation bond is going to be $2,645,005.50. So our total ad valorem debt request is going to be $2,812,624.59. This is going to be 11.71 mills because our mills are worth $240,000, and this is less than it was last year. Our total debt, our total millage was 11.85 last year. So this is where the board is going to have to make a decision tonight. There are three different options for our operations in ad valorem. Option A is going with just our total base. It's not asking for a percentage increase. It's not asking for new programs. It's asking for the new property and our debt request. And the total request is going to be $14,954,752.46. That would make the millage 62.31, which is a reduction of 4.02 mils. Option B is what I've actually written this budget on. It's our total base, no percentage increase, our new programs, new property, our debt request, and as you can see, it totals up to 64.96 mils, which is a reduction of 1.37 mils from last year. Option C does show a slight percentage increase, and I will explain why. After new programs, which is the total of local contribution that the state allotted or the state suggested, and we have the new property, we have our debt request, And all of that adds up to 65.5 mills. But because we advertised the amount of money that we advertised for, we can add our new property on top of that, and that's what we can actually request. So for the next year, we're going to have our 3 mil note reissued. I would like to capture and keep as many mills as we can. It would still have us giving up 0.83 mills, but being able to keep a little over 0.53 mills. These are the options that the board has. What I would do with the additional funds of the 0.53 mills that we would keep is I would put them in operations for this year so we can keep them and turn them into debt next year so we don't have to go and ask for these mills back. And this is going to require a board decision so I can finalize our budget for approval for next week. So this slide is normally the slide that I had, and I decided to keep it in honor of the past 4 years where I've had to ask the board to allow us to go into fund balance to meet the expenditures that our district were expecting. And this year we did not have to do that. But this is in honor of that slide. But for the first time since 2020, we have the ability to meet our proposed expenditures without having to go into fund balance. And that is the end of my presentation.
So you need a motion for either option A, B, or C, right?
Yes, sir.
I move that we approve option C.
We have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Richardson to approve option C for the ad valorem operations request. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Thank you, board.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out and attending the public hearing tonight.
Moving to item 5, CMSD fiscal year 24-25 budget public forum. No one signed up? Thank you. Moving to item 6, Hunt facility updates. Mr. Chapman.
Good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon.
All right, today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Hunt Intermediate School, just give you some updates on where we are. You have a good bit of information, so I'll explain some of that information as we go, so we can make sure that we have an opportunity to look at it and get any questions that you may have. But as was stated earlier, we do start with the district mission and vision, which is, again, to provide students the skills necessary to be college, workforce, and enlistment ready by building bridges among students, parents, and community. All right, so today we are talking about Hunt. Just a little bit about Hunt. So I wanted to give you an image of the Fighting Hornet and the school song. The Hornet is still in the museum, in the building right now. And I did get information about the school song that was forwarded to me by one of the community members that had a chance to walk through and visit with me. So that is the Fighting Hornet that you will see if you walk through Hunt in the museum. So in your package, I provided you with the original plans for Hunt Intermediate School. That will be the long forms with all that information. Also provided some modified proposed plans for Hunt, which I would like to discuss with you at some point. But also equipment purchase with the restart funds that we currently have, as well as some additional items needed to move forward with opening Hunt, and also some personnel necessary for the reopening. Now, the personnel information is not new personnel. It's just personnel that may take place once students are moved. So it's just giving you some ideas of some of the personnel. In my meetings, I've had Ms. Holly in there, so she understands the personnel part of it. So we just gave you just an outline of what that should look like. So just some updates. I've had a chance to go through and look at Hunt the last couple days. And if you look, the last set of windows will arrive. The date is wrong. It's not the 23rd. Maybe I was thinking about yesterday. But this Friday will be the last set of windows will come. Also, the large AC, which will go in this big area of this gym. I'm sure if you can see the big hole, big gap. That AC did arrive on Monday, so that AC is there, just has to be placed inside of the building, the gym. Painters should be in the next week to start discussing the painting of the gym and also of the building, as well as the electrical switch gear. I was told that that should be in next week also. And so, moving in the right direction with getting Hunt ready to go. Now, if you look at some of the images that were taken, this is the gym. As you see, all of the windows in the gym have been placed in at this time. The also provided the annex building. The annex building is the only area where the windows have not been placed. Those should be the last windows that will come in Friday, but they're about 3/4 of the way finished, completed. And then the back side of the main building. I didn't put the front side because everybody's talked about, they've seen the front side of the building where the windows are in. But the annex is actually the only area right now where they do not have windows, and those are the last windows that will come in Friday. But everywhere else, the museum, the windows are in, as well as the front part of the building, the area with where the band hall used to be. I think it was the art section of that building. The windows are in place. A lot of the windows have just been set right now, but they'll go back and insulate those and just kind of put them in. But they're here, so they're moving forward. They're excited about it. I had a chance to meet with the superintendent. Actually, Monday, we had a chance to walk through and just talk about it. But if you look here, you will see some of the drywall that has gone into the classrooms. You have the cafeteria, of course, with those windows, that area. This is the old locker room. I think there was a big space under those bleachers. They have already put in the drywall, so this actually from the outside looking in. So from the outside of the building, if you look in, there's a wall there. It no longer go directly into the kitchen, how it used to look. The cafeteria. All right, the classrooms, the drywall going up in the classrooms. This is a picture of the main office area and also the hallway that leads to the principal's office. Now, some of the community members that I've met with about just the museum and had a chance to walk through with me, we met twice with some of the members in this picture. This was a group that actually went out to Hunt when we did the walkthrough, but we also met with some here at the central office. Had a few other people, had about 15 people that we reached out to. Some of them were able to make it, some were not. But as we move forward, I definitely want to be more consistent with having more meetings and bringing them and having them involved on some of these decisions. And they are aware that once we are ready to move in, they'll move in with the museum at the same time with us, so they're ready to go. But they really enjoyed having the opportunity to walk through the museum, speak with the superintendent, as well as Mr. Taylor, to just talk about some of the concerns they had, which was providing more closet space, closet space, and expanding that. And the superintendent was more than willing to support them. And also, Mr. Johnson brought something to their attention that we didn't really think about, that was not in our plan, was a fence that would connect the museum to the cafeteria, thank you, that would prevent people from walking through. So that would keep that inside, all of that area secured. So that was, and they were, more than willing to help and provide that for us also.
You referring to where the opening is now?
Yes, sir. That's it.
Between the museum and the cafeteria?
Yes, sir. Right. Now, some of the partners in progress here, of course, we met with Ms. Wilson. She was part of the team. We had the principals, Ms. Latham, who's our seasoned principal in the district, who had a lot of good information and has worked in some other areas. Ms. Ewing, who was a teacher at Hunt when it was the 5th and 6th grade. Also, Dr. Jennings, who also was she's been in the district for a while, so has a lot of knowledge. Ms. Dismuke, she was a teacher as well at Hunt when it was 5th and 6th grade. Of course, Ms. Rogers, who has to make sure we stay in line and don't spend too much money when we were coming up with all these ideas of what we wanted it to look like. And then Ms. Bailey, I'll just kind of share some insight of, how that would look from the special education department. And then we have teachers, Ms. Bartley, Ms. McGee, Ms. Tiffany Carr. Ms. Tiffany Carr was actually a student, 5th grade. I think she was 5th and 6th grade at Hunt at the time. And Ms. Angela Collins, who was also a teacher at Hunt at the time, was in 5th and 6th grade. So a lot of them had good information about what it looked like when they were coming through. Former principals, I had a chance to meet with Mr. Johnson, again, after the initial two meetings, we met again to just kind of talk about some of his perspectives as being a principal, but also as the assistant superintendent when the district was in the process of trying to pass a bond. He was part of that team, and he kind of explained to me as to why, I think it was 90, the early 90s, 95, I'm not sure, when they started the reasoning for Hunt moving to a 56th grade. So he had a lot of valuable information from the assistant superintendent side as well as the principal. And so, of course, he wants me to continue to reach out to him, and I told him I will because I need this information to kind of help us move forward with Hunt. But also, Mr. Dupree, I spoke with him via phone. We had some conversations about that area and what it looked like when he was the principal there, and he also provided a lot of good information and more than willing to help support as we move forward with decisions that we have to make with it. So a lot of good insight from the partners and people that were in the rooms to help make some valuable decisions about Hunt. Now, as we started discussing the process of Hunt, we did go back to our strategic plan and what is written in our plan. And we focus on the development of data-driven decisions to increase student achievement and growth, which is D3, which I call it D3. The restructure schools to confine focus and expectations. And these are the expectations that we have in place right now with our strategic plan as far as how we would like to grade span our schools moving forward. And this is what currently, like I said, what we currently have in our strategic plan. But of course, we know with some things that have taken place and decisions that have made when we're looking at the feasibility studies and that information, that we had to take all of that into account as we were having these conversations about restructuring the schools. Now, how do we get here? Over the years, just looking at some things and having the conversations of the timeline of how some of the events have taken place leading up to the tornado in 2019, there have been some changes. And a lot of the changes, you know, moving from a 7th grade at Hunt to 5th and 6th grade to offices and the alternative school, even to now, you know, we really had to think about what does the enrollment look like. And just as Ms. Holly shared, we are seeing a decrease in the enrollment across the district, so we had to think about that as we were having discussions on about Hunt. The feasibility study that was provided by Primar, student discipline, what does that look like right now in the buildings? Where are we seeing our major problems, and how can we help with some of those? As well as teacher retention. What are the teachers looking for? How can we support them to make sure that we can retain those? And financially, safety was a concern, as well as the technology. We also talked about how that we're looking. I know Ms. McGee has already been meeting with the superintendents over at Hunt, just kind of going through and showing how, you know, the classrooms will be set up and how we want that area to be wired with technology. Transportation, extracurricular activity, as well as revitalizing that community, being able to, you know, bring life back into it with having a school. And so, which has been a while with having school. So we thought about how opening this school will actually bring, you know, the attention back to having some, a space where students will be able to attend, and not just with Columbus Municipal School District offices or the alternative school. Now, as we've discussed, mainly we've talked about the 6th grade, and that's what's in our feasibility study. The 6th grade, which currently would be 201 students in that area. And using just the main building for Hunt, that's based on their study, that's only like 56,000 square footage of that building. So there is an annex part of it that was not considered, I guess, when we were looking at the 6th graders that we currently have. I know in the previous plan, they talked about using it as a CTE platform or additional partnerships with the W. But just mainly what has been discussed, you know, that we've communicated is just strictly the 6th grade. And the maximum population would be 360 with just that main part of the building. And so, even though I did not get the square footage, but just thinking about the annex part of that building, I could see this square footage actually doubling, which will actually increase with the maximum number of students that we can allow in this building, but also just giving us an opportunity for an area of growth, which is what we want to do with student population, which is in our enrollment, we want it to grow. And so this would give us that space. But we really had to think about what the feasibility study discussed, which is a lot of our buildings are not at capacity, and we do have a lot of room to grow in all of it. So we really took that into consideration when we were thinking about Hunt, which was we've discussed with being the sixth grade building. Now, in your package, I did provide you with some additional information that I would like for you to read over and just, kind of any questions that you may have, just kind of have those and you can email those to me. But it is some information that I would like for you to read through and just think about, which is what we discussed with the team, my team, and we really took a lot of time into where we were headed and what we would like for you to see and read. So if you look at this information, it will give you a lot of details on things that we would like for you to take in consideration that we can discuss in a later meeting. Again, it's going to include all of the plans that I just named that was part of the attachments. And, once you get that information to me, I can get those questions answered and we can hopefully answer those questions and move forward with Hunt and any other areas that we have to look at. Any questions about information that I presented?
Yes, I have one.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chairman. Mr. Chapman, from your observation, do you think that it'll be complete by October?
There's a lot of work to do. I'm just kind of, I don't know. I really don't. I think it will, from just what they're saying. They're not really waiting on anything, but I know there has to be some closing of the building and cleaning it up. So as far as October, I think it may be a little bit after October, but I'm hoping that they can stick to that plan. But I know there's a lot of work that has to be done in that building on both sides, and but I think they're moving as fast as they can. But I'm just kind of hopeful that it will be in October.
Any more questions?
One question, sorry. Is there a way, when we established this from the beginning, the strategic plan, we had several work sessions. And the strategic plan goes back hand in hand with, the restructuring and all of that. And the strategic plan is a fluid document. But is there a way, when we started this process, we had everybody kind of in the room, the people that were working on it, where we could have a work session with the committee, so we can, hammer down or nail down and ask the questions amongst each other. It may be a little easier that way. It's just a suggestion. That's what we did initially, and it worked really well. And Dr. Shoemaker can attest to that. How many sessions do we have? 2 or 3? Yeah, so we can finalize
It was
like
3.
the buildings and the questions that we have and looking at capacity and the grades that need to go together. Like when we created the document, we knew that it would be changes, down the road. And it's a fluid document because we're changing as well. Everything's changing. So this is just a suggestion. When we have the next work session, if we could, the committee that's working on your side and us, and we can all just sit at a table and say, okay, this is. And I think that'll answer a lot of our questions.
As you continue through it, you may see some of that because we try to, hammer down all of that.
Okay.
So you may see, and so that's going to be in there from our standpoint of what that will look like.
Okay.
So, but I think it'd still be great to have that work session. So I can't have them in one, but that will give you, I guess, some ideas of what those discussions were like when we actually went back to look at the strategic plan of how those grades were set up.
Yeah.
And so listening to the principals and the teachers, having a good understanding of how even something simple as planning is beneficial for a certain grade if they're planning together as opposed to, being in one location with another. So we did iron out a lot of that if you look at it, but I think it'll be great to still have that meeting because
That'll help us understand on this side. Yeah. Any questions that we may have, just to be general, but we worked, like you said, she said 3 sessions. Well, you were there, weren't you
Right,
at
right,
that
I was
meeting?
at
Yeah.
the meeting.
And it went really well, and we got a lot done. And
So, Mr. Chapman, we can get together and try to set aside some time for a work session
Okay.
for all of the stakeholders.
I'm gonna tell you, my teachers are ready.
they ready.
They wanted to come tonight, but I told them just go to open house. So they're ready. So they're ready.
We'll work with Ms. Woodard to get something
Yes, ma'am.
scheduled.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, very thorough. Thank you so much. Yes, board, we have homework, so we'll do that homework for you, Mr. Chapman. Number 7, item 7, consideration and/or discussion to approve Arkansas State University Partnership Agreement submitted by the Office of the Superintendent. Is there a motion?
So move.
We have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Richardson. Any discussion? All in favor? Moving to item 8, consideration and/or discussion to approve Golden Triangle Autism Center proposal submitted by the Office of Special Education. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion by Dr. I'll second. Sorry. Mr. Richardson did? Okay. We have a motion by Dr. Shoemaker and a second by Mr. Richardson. In discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Item 9, consideration and/or discussion to approve Blue Sky Behavior Therapy, LLC, submitted by the Office of Special Education. Is there a motion?
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Richardson and a second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Item 10, consideration and/or discussion to approve Stephanie Kelly Speech Language Therapy Services submitted by the Office of Special Education. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion by Dr. Shoemaker and a second by Mr. Richardson. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Item 11, consideration and/or discussion to approve IXL for Heritage Academy submitted by the Office of Federal Programs. Is there a motion? I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a motion by myself, Dr. Brown, and a second by Dr. Shoemaker. Any discussion? All in favor? Item 12, consideration and/or discussion to approve higher quote for Brain Pop for Annunciation Catholic School submitted by the Office of Federal Programs. Is there a motion? I'll make the motion. We have a motion by Dr. Brown and a second by Reverend Richardson. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Item 13, consideration and/or discussion to approve community eligibility provision, CEP, at school year 24-25 advertisement in the commercial dispatch submitted by the Office of Child Nutrition. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Shoemaker and a second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Item 14, adjourn.
So move.
I'll second. We have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by myself, Dr. Brown. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Have a good evening.
Tap. This meeting is